No, I think that, and Lake Hayes should be a warning for Queenstown residents of what could happen to Lake Wakatipu if we don't look after it as well. I mean, you've got this example of, failing completely to protect one lake, and it should be a really strong warning to not let that happen in other places. And I went for a walk along the edge of Lake Wakatipu this morning, and went past a little stream coming down, and the sewage stench was unbelievable. The cyclists riding past could all smell it. That's the kind of, and I mean, if I'm here on one day, once a year, and I can find something like that, then how does that happen if you've got a proper monitoring system and a council that actually cares about what's going on here? Then that should never happen. Well, my glimmer of optimism is that the forum that happened last night, that you're organising that groundswell from the people is what changes councils. I mean, putting those people on the spot, they don't often have to do that. They mostly can get away with ignoring all that kind of thing and just have their comms people handle it. Having them on the spot makes them realise that they have to do something, and I think the more of that happens, at central government as well, it's that pressure from people that will change them. Yeah, well, I mean, this place feels really different to me from most of the places that I go to. This is more like overseas countries to me. The amount of development that's happening, the really expensive looking, when you look around, it looks rich. It looks like a huge amount of money here. And I was in Croatia last year and on the Adriatic Sea, and walked a beautiful old walkway, 14 kilometres of it that was hundreds of years old, and every house I saw was a few hundred years old, and it was just stunningly beautiful and without any ugly development, and they protected what was there, and it was very, very popular place to be. So yeah, I think you can do it, yeah. Well, I mean, there's two different situations to think about. And the rivers and lakes are quite different in how they respond to nutrients. So in the river they're flowing, and the algae grows sitting on the bed, and it can mine all of the phosphate that it needs out of the sediment, and so there can be none in the water column. It's just taken it all out, and you've got a massive algal bloom. When it gets into the lake, it's the phosphate, and the algae needs the phosphate and the nitrate to grow, but it's in the form of phytoplankton. It's not stuck to the bottom, it's in the water column. And the lake stratifies when it gets really hot, and it separates into two halves, and then when you get the oxygen removed out of the bottom half, then that phosphate that was sitting safely locked up in the sediment is suddenly released, and the phytoplankton grows, which is the algal bloom, and you get the soup happening, and all the problems happen from there. I think what I worry about is how much sway the developers have over the councils, and the naivety of the councils. It seems to me that they believe what they're told, and we see so often that the reality, that we're not naive. We don't believe these reports and the things that they say. It came up so often last night that on both the Queenstown Lakes District Council and ORC explaining how they can't do things because the rules won't let them do it. It's not in the plan, so you've got this army of really, really well-resourced developers with the best lawyers that money can buy, up against this little council with no resources. It's a very uneven situation there, and like tax law, any environmental law is open to interpretation, and there's an army of experts trying to find every hole and every way through it they can, and inevitably they're more successful than the under-resourced council trying to defend those rules. Oh yeah, for the councils to fight the battle properly, both at the coalface in the streams and at that higher level in the law and policy, they need way more. It's about priorities. Councils have had this low priority on freshwater, low priority. Maybe they prioritise ports and other income streams. They need to switch that. And so we have a really poor record of enforcement and monitoring. So many people will know the situation where you see something happening, you call the council and 3 weeks later they turn up. It's so hard for them to take a prosecution because they need all this evidence. They're up against, top lawyers and all that kind of thing. So if we could put more priority and more resource into protecting the environment, and that then we wouldn't see anywhere near the damage that we see at the moment. At the core of the problem, you have a council that's trying to protect the environment and the economy. And the economy from, just if you work for the council and you think about keeping your job and paying your mortgage and, putting your kids to school, then the way to keep your job is to make sure that there's more development and more money coming in. So that's why I think that councils should not have that role. The monitoring and enforcement role should be taken over by an independent environmental protection authority, a truly independent one. This is the model from overseas and it's the model that works. I think we made a big mistake trying to give those two roles to one organisation in New Zealand.